Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games. We've got Dan on Turbo Fog, actually playing against me here. Fairly unusual ELD Open. Usually they are pretty well attended. This was one of our smaller ones, trying to grow Pauper, but we had an odd number of players, so I jumped in with a deck that I had not previously played in a tournament, Moggwarts, and is performing so far. We got Iker Wellspring drawing a card. Dan drawing a card with frantic inventory, keeping pace. Made here lots of good options. Deadly Dispute, create a treasure and draw 3 cards. Just straight up Ancestral Recall there, and Skirk Prospector coming in as well. Deadly Dispute really is the key component to the resiliency of this deck. The effects in Moggwarts are very powerful when they come together, but you do need to draw a bunch of cards to make that happen consistently rather than just hoping to draw into it. Naturally, you need to draw like a bunch of extra cards some game. Rakdos Carnicarium, and another Skirk Prospector. Now, Turbo Fog, I'm not actually sure who's favored here. It's a really interesting situation. Brainstorm drawing some cards. So Turbo Fog is very well equipped to stop attacking decks, but Moggwarts isn't really looking to attack. So most of what Turbo Fog would kind of spin its wheels doing is really not necessary. Just need a counterspell for first day of class. Really unlikely that these Skirk Prospectors would be able to get there otherwise. Especially game 1 when you have all your fog effects. I mean, there's just no way, even if you get a Goblin Matron and a Putrid Goblin down, I mean, 5 damage a turn, Turbo Fog is easily going to brush that aside. Weather the Storm and like. Got a first day of class. Duress cleared the way. And, oh wow, just talking over the kill at this point. So Duress got the single counter spell out of hand. First day of class has resolved. It's going to be infinite mana thanks to Putrid Imp's Undying. Coming back, or Persist, I should say. Is going to keep coming in with -1/-1 counters, but also +1/+1 counters because of first day of class. That Persist is going to create an infinite sackable goblin each time, getting sacrificed to that Skirk Prospector to get infinite mana. From there, cards like Introduction to Prophecy, you're going to dig until you find the kill, which in this case was Makeshift Munitions, where you can now sacrifice the Putrid Goblin infinitely to that. Loading red mana. So that's what Moggwarts is looking to do. Turbo Fog, uniquely set up to actually be able to counterspell the key cards. It's really going to be a matter of countering first day of class and then possibly going after the graveyard, as the whole combo does pass through the graveyard. Doesn't stay there long. Putrid Goblin does die and come right back, but if you have something like a Tormod's Crypt or a Fairy Macabre, any type of card that can interact with the graveyard, it is gonna be a pain. Be a pain to deal with. Gonna have to have multiple Putrid Goblins to work through that. Oh, that's... I remember making that mistake. Dross Forge Bridge, I think it is. Comes into play tapped. Really good. It's an artifact, so you can also sack it to Deadly Dispute as needed. Or Wellspring draws a card. Ash Baron is cycled. It was really going to come down to counter magic to stop that first day of class, which is an instant, so dispel a hard counter for that as well. Really love seeing these new basics. Look sharp here, Turbo Fog. challenging to play in a tournament as well. Really, from Dan's side of the table, just going to need to consistently make his land drops, drag things into the deep end. Oh no, missing a land drop, was it? Oh. The Simic Growth Chamber is so good for that. Bouncing a land to hand. Basically drawing a card. It's kind of just a land that draws a card in a sense. It is vulnerable to things like Cleansing Wildfire, but overall, bounce lands incredibly strong in Pauper. Probably just needs to sit back. Oh, he's going to commit with the Jace's Erasure. Response, Deadly Dispute. So Jace's Erasure does get the ball rolling for Turbo Fog. A little bit more of, I mean, a much more aggressive mill strategy. A little bit of an issue with that is, one, it committed some mana, so the dangerous turn. 2 blue to play with right now. And then also, the deck does run Unearth, so milling a Goblin Matron into the bin, to being 1 black as a kind of a demonic tutor for the deck. I mean, everything that you really are looking for, except for the first day of class, can be tutored with that Goblin Matron. And it's a body. Which, if things go too long, would become an issue eventually, though I suspect that's really unlikely to get to that point. Crazy amount of cards in hand here. Leading out with a Duress and seeing 3 counters. It looks like Arcane Denial, Counterspell, and Dispel, along with a couple of cantrips. 1 counter can be played. Goblin Matron being sacrificed to get Automatic Star out. Yeah, I guess with Skirk Prospector, it's like a free demonic tutors. You can unearth Matron and sack it for red. I mean, it's just really, really strong. So much synergy in the deck. End of turn Frantic Inventory. So Dan survives the turn where the shields are down. Has access to a couple of counters here. And at this point, it's definitely a draw-go situation. There's a big risk last turn. May pay off. Now he's got 4 mana available. Just needs to hold down the fort. Just needs to make sure first day of class doesn't resolve. Arcane Denial, though, looking to cash in some extra cards while countering this Putrid Imp. Don't love it. Oh, Duress and Pyroblast. This is a really tough hand to beat. The first day of class. I believe Dan just has access to 1 more counter. I think he can either Dispel or use one of his 2 mana counters. Might as well just fire off a Dispel here. Pyroblast pushes it through. And now Unearth. So infinite mana on board. Duressing, being just a couple of AKs. Now Goblin Matron will show up. So Unearth was the way I thought that was going to go. But Goblin Matron ends up being cast with that infinite red mana. That Arcane Denial on the Putrid Goblin ends up really being a costly play, which is going to happen when you're playing against a deck like Moggwarts. If your opponent's not familiar with it, which is very likely that they haven't played against it a ton, deck is very powerful and can really punish any type of little misstep.